Morning, everyone. We thought we'd do something different and focus on Mother's Day. So we're doing this from PermiServ Limited, and it's Polly and Louise at PermiServ. Obviously, you probably met us before, and we're going to talk about our experiences around being a working mum, really, and how that journey is. And Polly's is slightly different from my journey, so I thought we'd just talk about that in honour of Mother's Day. So welcome, Polly, to the first podcast.
Hi.
Of PermiServ's first podcast.
It is, absolutely. It's very exciting.
Exciting, yes. It's different to have someone actually on the sofa. I haven't had anyone actually physically here since Hayley, and that was weeks ago. So normally I'm just talking at a laptop and we're hoping that we can hear each other. So it's quite nice to
have a physical person.
Exactly. So you obviously haven't been with PermiServ that long.
No. It's only a few months, really.
But it feels like forever.
It does. Yeah, it does. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a good thing. And it's obviously been really busy. So we've got time out now, I guess, to share a bit about us. Obviously, you're slightly different. Your son's older. When you first had him, what were you doing work-wise?
So when I first had him, I was working in marketing, actually, at a company called, Rofant House. So it was an events company, really. So I went on maternity leave, and I didn't actually return to that job at that point. So I was very lucky, and I had probably about a year off with him.
Was that a choice?
It was a choice. Yeah, it was a choice, really. I wanted to spend that time with him. But also it didn't make financial sense to go back to work. Yeah. It's the same old story, isn't it? With nursery fees and stuff. So I had about a year with him, and then I found a job that fitted around him. So I was nannying. Private nannying, because that's where my qualifications are in childcare. I was private nannying for a little while for a family. And then I ended up in a soft play cafe that just worked around preschool once it got the funding. And that was my journey initially. And then I wasn't really fulfilled in my career because sales is my passion. So I went to a new homes company, and I worked for them for 5 years. But it was difficult, because initially, even just trying to get into the company, because I only wanted part-time, again, for childcare reasons and the balance of being a working mum. So it was really tricky to, A, get the job, and B, make it work around having a young child and the illness and the commitments and all that kind of stuff. So I did that for 5 years, but I felt I couldn't progress in my career the way I wanted to.
Yeah, I think that is the story for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that, and why is it that we have to think about those things to have a family? It's like we have to put a stop on so much anyway, because your life turns on its head, doesn't it? And you're suddenly responsible for this new human. But equally, you are stopping everything for yourself, because you've got to make difficult choices around your career. Mm-hmm. And it's made difficult for you anyway, because you are looked at different when you're a mum or of an age. I found when I was in my mid to late 20s, I did feel like I was treated different, like, oh, you're going to go off and have babies now.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, my journey wasn't that. And at that time, I didn't want to have children. Mm. But I felt like it was a constant question. And I remember doing interviews even. And afterwards, some of the feedback from people was, no, they're going to be leaving soon and go on maternity leave. You know?
Yeah. I'm not going to do it. Yeah, not necessarily. Yeah,
and absolutely. Also, you can't target people in that way. I mean, that's HR nightmare. You actually shouldn't, but it is still there. It still exists. And I think a lot of the decisions you have to make around your career to have a family is still really unfair for the woman man. I don't see, like, my husband never had to make those choices. Is this going to affect my career? Am I going to have to work part-time now? Am I going to have to do this, this and this? How am I going to juggle it?
So interestingly, when you had your son, did Alex take leave?
Yeah, so he took 2 weeks. That's all you get. But because I had the C-section and I took so long to recover and I really struggled, he then was back 2 weeks and then he had another 2 weeks off. So we used all of his holiday basically to be at home and look after me, really, because I just couldn't do anything, which was really frustrating.
Yeah, of course.
I was in a really fortunate position. I didn't ever have to question my career. I spoke to John, our MD, and I said, this is what we're planning on doing. and we want to start a family, but I really don't want that to affect my career at PermiServ. And it was almost like, what a ridiculous thing to say, Lou. And it was treated so differently. And I'm so lucky because everyone else I speak to had a completely different journey. But it was almost like, so what?
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's just going to enhance your life. Your career is still PermiServ.
That's incredible to have that support. Yeah. I mean, I don't know many of my friends or anybody else in that position. And I was having a discussion. I went out for a meal with a friend the other night, and she was saying, trying to juggle life is a nightmare. She has 2 young children. One's at school, one's at nursery. And I think as mums, we always think, when they're at school, it's a little bit easier. But you still have, depending on your career, that wraparound care. Yeah. All the school plays and bits and pieces. And if you have an employer that isn't understanding of that, it's really difficult, especially with the lead up to Christmas, because we all know,
And it's just everything, it changes. And my work has never been 9 to 5. And that's kind of led to the flexibility. And PermiServ is quite different. Even pre-COVID, we were all home workers. So this wasn't a new thing for us. Because that's just how the business works. We're all over the country, different skill sets. The factory is where it is, obviously in Dartford, but we've always been all over the shop. So, and all of us do weird hours because it's never worked 9 to 5. That's not how councils work. That's not how we work. So when it was almost like I just had to do a shift. So when he was baby, I went back at 3 months.
Amazing.
And that was part choice, part another member of our team's baby decided to come earlier than expected, and part because I'm a control freak and I really wanted to be back and have that normality. And so I did it different then. So every time he was napping, I would do a bit of work because that's obviously the hour sleep cycle. And then from 4 months, I changed again and I did a different working pattern. And now I have a different working pattern. He's in childcare more, but I work weekends because I want to spend a day with him sometimes. On a Tuesday, I like having that time with him. So I can really mix it. But then equally, if I have got a meeting that needs to come up, then I try to get cover for that hour or so. But it is a constant organisation.
Juggling.
Yeah,
juggling act, absolutely.
So difficult.
But I have noticed from working with for PermiServ, that I have that flexibility, but that is taking a bit of getting used to. Yeah. As you know, and it's amazing that I can. So if something does come up at the school, I'm not thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to take a holiday day, but is it too late to take the holiday day? And all those kind of questions that you have to ask, yourself before you can even do that. So having that flexibility is incredible because I think it makes you happier in the long run.
Then you feel guilty.
Yeah.
And I think that at PermiServ, we trust everyone.
Yes.
So much because everyone cares so much. So there's never a point where anyone would think, oh, they're taking the mick.
Yeah.
So if you have got something that comes up, then I know that you and I will just do it later and we will sit there at like 9 o'clock sifting through emails and making sure we've done everything. Whereas other people, I know other people in other jobs that would take the mick and they're like,
of course.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And working from home, it is difficult to manage that and make sure everyone is doing what they're doing. But you have to trust people.
Absolutely.
And we're really fortunate. We've got a small team. There's only, 14 of us? And everyone really cares and it matters. So you have to have that good work-life balance so that we're all happy. Mm-hmm.
I think a happy team, you get better results generally, don't you?
And no one's happy if we're worried about having our child ill at home and worrying about the repercussions of that.
Yeah, it's so true. But interestingly,
judgment.
I mean, we've got female and male employees, and it's the same across the board for everybody. And a lot of us have got children, haven't we?
Yeah.
Or other commitments and things going on. So it goes across the board. It's not just necessarily a woman thing, is it?
No, it's not.
Some of the guys end up with their kids at home or things they've got to attend. And
I 100% know any other job that I had previously, I would not have had the journey as a mum that I've got or that I wanted. I just wouldn't have had it because it was, first of all, I had to go somewhere and there was no flexibility at all and it was very judgmental environments. And I know I would never have furthered my career. I would have definitely been made to stay where I was, if not lower, and then forced to do less hours and have less responsibility because they deem it as a weakness. Mm-hmm. Whereas I never really thought about it because I didn't want to be a mum during that period. I was very career focused. I knew what I wanted. I never even thought about those issues with being stifled as a mum, or even having a category around what that meant. But I saw it happening to other people, and I saw them lose that.
Yes.
And of course I know all opportunities. Yeah, loads. And I'm so thankful that didn't happen to me, because
well, look at me in the previous company. I mean, there was no way that I could. I mean, I was fortunate enough that they were flexible with me and they gave me the opportunity and they trained me up. I mean, I didn't have any knowledge in that sector, so it was great. But because I could only work certain hours, and my husband was working shifts at the time as well, which made it even more difficult. So not only the childcare, the husband working the shifts, which then obviously childcare around shifts is a nightmare, as you know as well. But it just meant that for me to progress, if I wanted to become a senior or management level, it was impossible unless I did the full-time hours.
And then you feel like you're making more sacrifices than you've already made.
Absolutely.
And that still feels very unfair.
And also financially, you don't get compensated for it because, you know, at the end of the day...
so expensive.
Yes.
No one told me how expensive it is. I mean, my son gets through clothes and shoes. He actually missed a whole age group. He just grew so big, so quick, that he didn't ever wear 6 to 9 months. I just had all these brand new clothes. I was like, brilliant, thanks, mate. And then he went from like a size 6 foot to a 7.5. There was no... So I was like, brilliant. So those shoes are gone. Buy the next lot in. Yeah. And it's just... I
hate to tell you this, it doesn't change.
I know.
I'm 9 years down the road and it's constant. It is constant.
And then all the other stuff in the nursery, goodness me. I mean, obviously that's changing soon. So as of April, it's the 11 hours full-time. So that I see that changing now, because how do you get back into it? And this is the thing. The only reason why I've managed to have what I've got and have only 2 days in childcare is because of my flexibility around work and how supportive PermiServ is, and the fact that Alex works shifts. So he is home during the week every second and fourth week. So he is there to do the childcare. So it's a constant juggling act. That's the only way I've managed to do it, whereas everyone else is paying thousands.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think a friend of mine, she said, I think her childcare bill was 2,500 or something. I mean, she's up in London, but she has a very successful career. And she said it's just ridiculous. I mean, she earns well, so obviously it was worth her doing it. But, you know, that is just mad. Absolutely.
But then what's the other choice? So you have to then choose, don't you? Either I'm a stay-at-home mum, or I work, or I work part-time. Well, every one of those comes at a different price cap.
Yeah.
So you are then in realms of affordability, and some people will go back to work making no money at all just because they want to go back to work. And I feel that I went back at obviously 3 months. Now, in hindsight, that was probably a bit silly, because the C-section really did cause me jip. Yeah. And that was a bit silly, I think. But I was so keen to get back, and I didn't want to be defined just as a mum. I still wanted to have my identity, and I think I didn't ever switch off, and I quite like that. So I never had that struggle getting back into work. So I'm really grateful for that, whereas I see some of my friends that couldn't afford to go back to work, so they had to make the choice, not because they wanted to go back to work. And now, we're obviously 2 years in, they're looking at going back to work. That's going to be a really big struggle now, isn't it?
Of course. And also that break in your career.
Yeah.
Because so much has happened in that 2 years, and things move on, don't they? And I think it's, you know, it's a really difficult choice. It's a really difficult thing.
Really difficult.
And I feel it's a bit unfair, actually, like we say, in lots of areas.
Yeah.
I know they are starting to bring in more equality, if you like, in the sense of men sharing maternity leave and calling it paternity leave and stuff like that. So there are options, but it seems limited at the moment, and it seems to only be for...
And even then, that is an option. I just feel like that we need to figure out that more choices being available to women. If you want to go back to work, support careers with women, not just, poor little women want to go back to work. No, we want to have a career. We want to be our individual self and not just be defined as a mum. And also we want to be the best mum we can be and the best career we can have. And I don't feel like you should make a choice. No. I always feel like we're trying to do that constant juggle to be the best at everything. And we put that pressure on ourselves. It would be quite nice for a little bit of that pressure to be taken away and just go, yeah, why wouldn't you? Yeah. Why can't you have
And
both?
It doesn't mean because you're a good mum or you're good at your job, there's no reason you can't be both.
Exactly.
And that's what's lovely about PermiServ, isn't it? Because it does give you that flexibility. Has taken a little bit of me getting used to that. So I'm constantly feeling guilty all the time about, is it okay? I always ask that question. Yes, Polly, it's fine. As long as you get your workload done and everybody's happy, of course it's fine. But it has taken so much pressure off me.
I think that working mums are more organised because you have to be.
Yeah.
And it's not actually a negative. Like, working mums are fierce because you have to be. You've got to juggle so many different things. And my baby group, I've never been in baby groups in my life. I've tried to stay away from babies as long as possible. But I've learnt this new power of woman. And it is fierce.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've suddenly got these women that are like, no, I am going to do this and I am going to be okay and I am going to... A lot of it, the emotional side, I really struggle with. But...
The guilt. Do you feel guilty?
Yeah, I feel guilty a lot because, again, you put this unnecessary pressure on yourself, don't you? I just want to be everything to my son and give him the best possible life and give him every opportunity and not miss anything. I don't want to miss anything. I'm only doing this once. And it goes like that. I can't believe how quick it's gone. It feels like a second ago he was in my belly and now he's 2. And I struggle with that. And I do feel guilty, but I do think I've had the right balance. So I don't have any regrets yet. I slightly think I made a bad choice coming back at 3 months.
But it worked. It did work.
It worked, and it did. And I'm glad from a career point of view and for the business because with the lead up to the announcement, we made the choice to really invest heavily in sales and marketing and really get our message out there when there was a lot of uncertainty. And that happened to be the year that I had my son. So I'm glad we did it because that set us up for what's happened since, which has been insane and very, very busy, which is great. But yeah, so I'm glad I did, but I think I put unnecessary pressure on myself to be that person when I was still recovering from quite a serious operation. But that's what I mean, you become fierce. You're like, I'm not going to be beaten by a C-section. And I know another friend of mine who, she was like, no, this is not, I will be fine. Yeah. And she really...
But I think it makes you stronger. I mean, look, let's face it, we've all gone to work with kids with no sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, when do you ever do that previously? And, when they're ill or you're ill and you just have to go through, it makes you stronger. It does make you stronger. But having a supportive company behind you makes all that difference, or some degree of flexibility. And I think it should be more widely available, if I'm really honest, especially these days. There's so much can be done now on Teams. You can work from home. You can have that flexibility. And as long as the workload's done, I think it's really wrong that they could be missing out on potentially the best person for that job role.
Yeah.
Because they're concerned that there might be a bit of work-life balance juggling to do.
I think that's one thing that COVID actually has taught us is the work-life balance can be massively improved by doing the hybrid working where you can work both. I mean, we obviously don't yet until we find a commercial property where we can work out of. So we do work from home. We have to mix it up because we have other challenges where we're always at home. Yeah. And that, from a mental health point of view, is really difficult. And we all struggle.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Everyone in the business, we have to get out and we have to make that choice to go, right, we're going somewhere different today. We need to work from somewhere else. And we need to be together because we need to bounce off people.
Especially in sales roles.
Oh, yeah.
Even more so because we need that.
Yeah, and it's so weird going from a busy office that I was at my previous company where everyone's like, bah, 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 and you have that constantly to just being... You've only got your dog's opinion. Like, oh, Hattie, she doesn't have any ideas.
Absolutely.
So it's nice to have that team spirit as well together. And also you're having that happiness being happy in your job. Well, isn't it the 4-day working week as well?
Yes.
We don't do that. Not yet. But they're trialling. They're trialling that for that reason.
Yeah.
Of the happiness of the lack of guilt, I guess.
Yeah.
What is there an argument to say the 4-day week works because of that? So you don't work on a Friday, so you cram all your work in those 4 days. Personally, I don't think that would work for me, because I feel like I'll be trying to cram too much in where I'm already trying to balance it out over 7 days. I think if I then reduced it by a day, I don't
think we need it to be that rigid with PermiServ. It wouldn't work because
flexible.
It's already flexible, and the way that we work it is there's always someone available to talk to, isn't there?
Yeah.
So if I'm off at a school play or whatever, someone can get hold of you or one of the other colleagues, and it will always be dealt with. And that's the beauty of it, really, isn't it? And I think it would almost be too rigid to say, right, okay, 4-day working week, this is your one day.
I get it.
And I get it from work-life balance. And I think in some industries it can work. And a lot of the other mums that I speak to that work full-time say, I don't have a single day where I can get everything done at home.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem as well. So it's not even just about spending time with your kids. It's about the housework, the washing.
God, it sounds so 1940s,
I know,
doesn't
but it is true.
It
though.
is true.
It is true.
True.
And I'm not saying that the men aren't doing any of that, but what I'm saying is we're all a team at the end of the day, and those things still need to be done. And if you've got two working, if you're a partnership or a couple, husband, wife, and you're both working, you've got to share that workload, and it still needs to be done. And people work, two partners working full time to try and find the time to get that done. Whereas if we are working from home, you can put a wash load on.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can keep
up with things a little bit easier.
Up a little bit easier. I've got up in the morning before and done a slow cooked meal for the evening so that it's ready. Whereas if I'm going off to the office, I'm not going to be up at 6 a.m. chopping up.
I am grateful for. My life would definitely not be like this going back to where I was previously. But one thing I do think of is how stressed I was in the morning trying to get. First of all, it was also a really long way away. Yes. It was like when they moved the business, I think it was a 45-minute drive, and then in rush hour, it was on one. It was just awful. And I hate being late, but I was always late because I didn't really want to go. So that doesn't help. But then rushing around in the morning and looking back, I must have had loads of time, because now I've got so much more, and I just think, how much time did I have available to me? I must have loads of time. But at the time, you don't think you do. I couldn't do that now.
No.
Just getting up and getting somewhere for like 8:30 or 9 o'clock. No. My son's always late for nursery and I don't get stressed because actually it doesn't matter. I'm just then paying for him not to be there, which is, that's my bad. But I have got other things I need to do, and I will get a phone call like from work, and I'm not going to not take that, because if it's early, it normally means there's something that I need to sort out.
Of course.
So, I definitely couldn't have done that now. And because, you went back. I went back. And how difficult was that?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a journey. So I went back for a period of time. So I started working with you guys, didn't I? And got offered another opportunity. And I had struggled slightly with the transition of working from home. I think it was just I couldn't get my head around that it was okay to be flexible, and obviously learning to be in your own space, and where do you put your laptop, where do you put everything, making it work for you. So I did struggle with that bit initially, but I went back, and it was stressful getting everybody out of the house. Well, I say everybody, I've got one child, but I also have a dog who's very much like a child. So, the dog had to be walked, the child had to be dropped at school. At the time, I was a single mum, so trying to do that and get out of the door, look presentable. I think one day I went in with my dress unzipped, and, at the end of the day, it's only the top bit, but, it's because you're rushing and juggling. Yeah. And this is the story of so many mums I'm out. I think a friend of mine, my best friend, said to me, I turned up to work and had baby sick, all down the back of my dress. God, yeah. And I didn't know because it was down the back, and I hadn't realised, and I was rushing out, trying to get to work. We're leaving the house at 8 o'clock in the morning. And it's stressful, and they're not arriving home until sort of 6, 7 o'clock at night, which has a big impact.
It is a huge impact. That just reminded me of something else. Again, this was this must have been pre-you. So obviously PermiServ have been really supportive, and I'm so proud actually of PermiServ, and it just isn't an issue. It's not even a topic. It's not even a conversation. And that's why I love it, because that is the definition of inclusivity, is it not? Like, it's not even a conversation, so it's perfect. But what I did notice was the industry that I was in was also supportive. Like, this wasn't just PermiServ, this was the big wide world. So in my career, I'm new to waste really, I've only been at 7 years. But for example, I did go back to work at 3 months, and we had an event in Glasgow. So I was about another month later maybe, and I was still breastfeeding. Hadn't really thought this through at all. The fact I was going to Glasgow and my baby was down near Brighton. Okay. And Geraldine at Raw Let's Recycle was so supportive, and she made sure that I barely lifted anything. They helped me set up. Then I had a massive meeting room, honestly, so to go and pump. But I walked into this meeting room and it was huge. It was like a conference room. And I was just so funny. And I just remember sitting there, and I had my feet up, and it's windows all the way around in this really high, it's the Radisson Blu. It was really high up. All windows, open windows.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, the pump machine's like, meh, meh, meh. And there's just me in there, locked in there, like sitting there for half an hour doing that. And then I'd go back into the room, and then I'd do the bit, and then I'd have a drink, coffee and biscuits and stuff. And then obviously you've got to go back again because it hurts.
Yeah, of course.
So I'd go back in there, meh, meh, meh. Oh my God, it was just awful, absolutely awful. But they were so amazing. Yeah. And then... so every event was like that. They were fantastic, and I breastfed up until 7.5 months, so I did quite a lot of events in that period. But one I remember also was Bartek's event, Tim, and last minute I couldn't get cover for my son. My husband had to work, my mum and dad were away, loads of stuff happened. I was like, I can't come to the event. So yes, you can, bring him.
Oh, wow.
I know. Oh, so it was... I don't know, 7 months, 8 months maybe. And I was like, I cannot bring, I don't even know how to do that. And so, just bring him, it'll be a conversation point. I was like, this is ridiculous, I cannot bring him. And in the end, we were going to bring him. So we had T-shirts made, because it was a superhero theme event, with a mum superhero sign on it. And I had everything packed, so I changed the hotel. So I had a fridge in it for the milk. I had a travel cot put in the room, and it was all sorted.
Wow, that's incredible.
Last minute, Alex managed to get the time off work, so I didn't go in the end. And then everyone was like, oh, we're really
looking forward to it.
But every event was like, oh, just bring him.
That's incredible. I think that is just amazing.
How often does that happen?
Yeah, it should. But
and I felt like it was okay.
There's so many people in, there's so many mums, isn't there?
Yeah.
So many mums out there, and it should be more accepted.
Yeah, and it was almost like, well, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And that was just really surprising. So I've never heard of that before. And it was just really, really refreshing to have that. And even now, I mean, I would not take him anywhere now, because he is a lunatic. He just runs everywhere, and he would just cause carnage. But... if that opportunity was there, I would have to, but I wouldn't feel bad in doing it, and I would find a way of doing it. And so many people are like, oh, look after him while you do this, this and this. And I was like, and I could kind of visualise it. I could visualise standing there at an event and then having him there, or someone else being able to hold him while I did something. And that was really refreshing, and I didn't feel like it was a weird thing to do.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Whereas,
really
again, if I go back to my previous industry, so we were in sales, but we had to open during the Christmas period. And obviously my husband at the time worked shifts. And it was really difficult to find childcare in between Christmas and New Year, because everything's closed. And I remember turning around and saying to my boss, worst case scenario, could I bring him in? And it was like, oh... not really, because it's really difficult, and obviously you're in sales and we have a certain look and we have to do this and we have to do that, and also from an insurance point of view, and there was a blocker there, so it was really, really difficult for me. And we work in between Christmas and New Year at PermiServ, do we not? Yeah. Very lightly, I'll say, but we're there. Yeah. We are there. We check our emails. We make sure everything's okay. And this year was a breeze, because I checked my emails, but I was at home with my family. I was enjoying my Christmas. And that was so refreshing.
Yeah, I agree. I felt the same. It was nice. But we, obviously, we don't encourage the children to be on site at Dartford in the factory.
Oh, of course
but
not.
Upstairs,
no, sorry. Yeah, of course.
No, but upstairs, I took my son in, so he was... I know how old he was. He was holdable. And one of the production team took him for a while. You just need to get away.
Yes.
And I was like, I just need to go and get fuel in the car and not have screaming and just gather myself for a minute. Mm-hmm. So she took him and just cuddled him. He was that age where he was huggable. And I went and got fuel and just had 5 minutes to myself just to... But again, that was nice as well that I had that available to me. So I could take him in. It was only a brief visit anyway because it was just prep for an event. But again, it doesn't feel weird. Yeah. It doesn't feel like if I went in with my son, it's like, oh, God. No, it's...
So flip it. If you worked 5 days a week and you had to be physically at work, how would you feel?
I don't think I could have done it. Mm. The guilt, I don't know. It feels horrific. Mm. I'm guessing that I just wouldn't have known any different because the experience I've had is so rare that I would have just been like everyone else. Mm. And I would have had to play that juggling act and I would have had to have made some really difficult choices.
Yeah.
So I would have had to have probably changed career and gone and done something completely different and part-time. Yeah. Because there's no way I could have afforded
this is the predicament I was in, yeah.
Yeah, and so I would have had to have made that choice because I couldn't... God, if something had happened as well, I was an hour away. Mm. So my husband's at work, he works nights, I would have had to have gone back, so I would have had to... And then that would all be frowned upon. Mm. And also then the childcare cost, I would have had to have made some really difficult decisions. Like I say, I feel very blessed because I didn't have to do any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I did to an extent, and it was difficult. I did what I had to do to get through that period. And then when I revisited going back into the career that I wanted, I'm not saying it was difficult. It came with challenges. The company were supportive, but it didn't really fit. It was so hard to juggle. It was so hard to juggle. And I was stressed a lot of the time. I was stressed. And then, of course, I was at a different stage to you. So I had the school holidays and things to cover where you suddenly have no childcare. So, okay, they're in school, during term time. But you suddenly have no childcare for 6 weeks. And it's just a nightmare. And then what do? Do you use all your holiday? But then you can't take 6 weeks off in a block or 4 weeks off in a block. So it's trying to juggle it all and be fair on your team, be fair on yourself, be fair on your child. And as I said, having the flexibility that we have with PermiServ is incredible because it means that I don't have to make those choices.
Yeah. And because that's 6 weeks, obviously I haven't got there yet, so I don't know. But I experienced it with our MD and everyone just knows that it's more difficult in school holidays. So we have to all support each other through it. Because, I mean, like you say, everyone on our team... a lot of us have young kids, so we all have to just support each other, and all the time we're talking and communicating about what we've got on, then we make sure that support's there. So if one person, like when one team member, she goes swimming, I support that. Yeah. And then when I've got tumble tots, she supports that.
The other way around.
And it's really nice.
Absolutely.
But equally, a recent thing is obviously we've been discussing about the challenges of just doing homework without even being a mum and trying to get out more and making that active thing. That's also been supported. Like the other day, obviously, we went and did CrossFit and it was like, oh yeah, Polly and Lou were in a meeting. Yeah. And it was just really nice. Everyone else kept an eye on things just so we could have that time for us. But then we didn't do a lunch or not made that choice. We just didn't. And then we caught up other times out after work. So having that support is so nice and again refreshing because other team members, I know that he has gone swimming, so we'll cover him while he does that.
One doing yoga, haven't we?
Yeah, and then because sometimes you can't do these things at night, and we especially can't because we can't go out because our partners are working nights, so we have to be at home. So we can't go out on those
What
nights.
I'd say with PermiServ that's so nice is they seem to want a happy team. And I think you have got a happy team. We have got a happy team, haven't we? Yeah. Everybody's happy. And I think you get better results for that.
You get more
because
out of
you
people.
Get more out of people, and you can spend 8 hours a day sat at a desk, okay, and really only be productive for about an hour of that time, if that. Yeah. But also, if you're unhappy and you're stressing about other things in your mind, and we all do, we all go to work, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to book that, I haven't done this, dropped little one off this morning and they were crying, I wonder if they're all right, I can't concentrate. We don't have that. I mean, we do to an extent. You're always going to have that, but
that's going to be there, but it's more manageable.
It's much more manageable. Yeah, it doesn't completely go away, of course. But,
no, and and it's an ever-moving thing, isn't it? Being mum has been the best thing I've ever done, but also the hardest. But I don't feel like I've sacrificed much in order to do it. I just feel like I'm being the mum I want to be most of the time. And I'm doing my career how I wanted to do it most of the time. I get frustrated because, oh God, they're such carriers. And the last 2 years I've just been ill. And I find that so frustrating. And it's so funny, a lot of my older friends will definitely confirm I am not good ill.
Older friends. I think we all know that, Lou.
Good point. No, believe it or not, I did used to be worse. And one of my friends will contest to the fact that I used to even walk ill. Like, if I had a cold, I'd be like, oh, if I had a theme tune, I'd be like, duh, and I'd be like so ill and really feel sorry for myself and really mopey and, oh, goodness me. But you can't when you've got a child. You just have to carry on. So I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. And really try and push through that. And that's the thing I've really struggled with the most is the illness. So it's not just like a little cold anymore. It's like something big, like where I'm written off. And then I'm like, oh, so the little bit of energy I've got left is keeping this human alive. And then I'm trying to do work, but you just can't and then you fall behind. And that's really stressful.
It is, of course.
That's a bit I've really struggled with.
Yeah,
being
ill. Is difficult. It is. I mean, and that does get better because particularly toddlers tend to carry just a lot more because they're it's just they're building up their immunity. So of course they're coming home with stuff, and it is so difficult. But I mean, even still now, what I've noticed is I don't have the dread. So if Ollie was poorly previously, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I'm going to let everybody down. I can't. Whereas I can still work, depending on how poorly he is, I can work around that now. I can still do my job, which is fantastic. And if I can't, there's someone there to step in, which is even better.
Yeah. And child or no child, working mum or no working mum, sickness happens, and sometimes you have to have a day off.
Of course
sick. So whether that's your dependent or not, that still happens.
Yeah, it does.
And again, we have to be supportive. But I mean, PermiServ, we're ridiculous. Hardly anyone takes any time off. No one takes any holiday. Oh, goodness me. One of the developers we established, he only had like 10 days holiday last year. I'm like, right, dude, you need to take some more holiday this year. He needs to get out of the house and go and do things. So he is actively going to do that this year. But everyone just loves it so much, I think, that they...
Well, I think because it's the love's there, and also we want it to do well. And we want, we've got the passion, haven't we? So that makes a big difference. Yeah,
it really does. So you're doing anything for Mother's Day?
I'm in Barcelona.
Talking
of taking holiday.
Is that on the system? Have I approved that?
Yeah, she's approved it, I think. Yeah. I don't know whether you've approved it. It's on the system. I have.
It's on the system. I never go in there. Oh, that's brilliant.
I know. Nice. So really nice. How about you? Are you doing anything?
I really don't know. I haven't even thought about it until I thought about this podcast and what topic we should have. So I was more concentrating on what I could do for my mum.
Yeah. As always, that's mother.
Trying to be everything to everyone. Yeah. I'd like to do something for my mum, and I'm sure my husband will think of something. He's quite thoughtful of things like that. So, to be honest with you, if I could just have a lie-in,
that's
a cup of tea, coffee in bed, and no one need me for like an hour, that would be the perfect Mother's Day present for me.
Does that ever happen?
No.
No one needing you for an hour.
No
not even necessarily the child and the husband. That could be anybody.
Everyone. Like, this is ridiculous. But it's nice. I like it. But equally, like, I mean, last night we did yoga.
We did.
And I really enjoyed that. That was an hour of no one needing me. I just laid there, basically.
And it makes you switch off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because we weren't allowed to take our phones in.
No.
And it
forced
was
to switch off. It was lovely.
Incredible, wasn't it? I think.
But again, you need to actively do this. And we've had to really force ourselves to do this, haven't we? Because we were finding ourselves in a place where
we were on a treadmill that we weren't getting off.
Yeah, it was just work and child. Us.
Yeah, spiralling, wasn't it? And we were feeling really drained. We both were quite poorly, weren't we, through January and stuff. And we hadn't been filling our own cups. Yeah. And I think we had this conversation, didn't we? We went out and had a conversation and we were like, right, what do we need to do to be the best version of us, really, in every respect, from a work point of view, from a home point of view, from every respect. And we've decided now, so we've madly signed up for CrossFit.
Yes, that's happening. Although I'm not going this week, so I'm going to York because I've got the Keep Britain Tidy event this week.
Yes.
Which I need to prep for. Which, again, the events are so much harder now because you have to plan so much more because I've got to sort out 1 million people to look after one human just because I've gone for, 2 days. But I will get an early night. I'm hoping for an early night.
Yes. A non-disturbed night as well. That is the best, isn't it?
It is the best way. Goodness me.
Just the best. And I think there's something about being away because there is none of that other responsibility. So you haven't got, I could just put a wash load on. Let me clean. There's something on the kitchen floor. Actually, I haven't gone through little one's toys for a little while. Let me do that. And these are the things that you end up doing when you
constantly
are at home.
Going round your head all the time.
So being away and going to these events, although it's work, it's actually quite refreshing in some respects because you get to meet new faces, new people, interact, talk.
Because that's the other thing we don't do is we don't meet new people and we don't get out with other people that much because that's the nature of what we do. So, and it's, like you say, we've made that choice and you have to make that choice to do it. Mm-hmm. You can't just sit there worrying about, this is spiralling, but not make an active decision to try and fix it. So we noticed that was happening. And we're not the only ones on the team to notice that.
No, absolutely. I think it's pretty across the board with the majority, especially the sales team and that side as well. But I think we all...
But that's what humans need.
Yeah,
we need interaction, work together. We're quite a team being, aren't we? Most people are, and you have to fill your cup. You have to get a bit of you in there, and I think
not feel guilty for that.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Because we all feel guilty all the time.
Constant.
I think that's actually the biggest thing about motherhood that I wasn't prepared for.
Oh, really? The guilt?
The guilt. Because I don't think I ever really felt as guilty about anything in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe because I was on a different... So obviously you've been with PermiServ, you have had that support, you've had that. But because I've been in different companies, done different things, I think I have constantly felt guilty.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing I didn't have. I didn't have that very often, if I'm honest. But the thing which I didn't know about was the anxiety of them being poorly. Mm-hmm. That was the bit that I really struggled, and I still do struggle with, is whenever he is ill, I didn't quite know how to deal with it because that sense of need to care.
Yeah, protection,
nurturing. That's in you was so strong. I've never had that for any other human being. That sense of, I literally would take a bullet in the head for you.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever you've got, I'll take it now. Just give it to me. Mm-hmm. I just want you to be okay. And again, I've just never had that. That love is so strong, it is terrifying.
I can relate to that.
And so that's the bit I've always struggled with, is that anxiety of him not being okay and can I fix it? What can I do?
And sometimes we can, and sometimes we can't.
Yeah.
Sometimes they
and knowing
need
what we're capable of.
Yeah,
exactly.
And not feeling like a failure for that because actually, we can't. If they need something medically, unfortunately, Lou, we're not doctors.
No, Google Doctor just doesn't work. I had this conversation with my father. Yeah. Self-diagnosis doesn't work. You do. It's just I think that was the bit. So my journey is completely different. So I don't have much guilt.
No, see, I said to my girls, actually, because I was one of the first out of our group to have a child, our friendship circle, and I said nothing prepared me for the guilt. It was a constant
How old were
battle.
you when you had him?
So I was 29.
29.
So, yeah.
So I don't know if that makes a difference. What do you reckon? So having a child earlier, can you catch up with your career quicker? So I know I was late, really late. I didn't have my son till I was 41. Mm-hmm. 41. So I'd kind of already got to where I wanted in my career. It was almost like I put it on pause for 4 months and then it was straight back to normal again. So maybe if I'd had him in my 20s, would I have caught up? I had less money. I would have definitely had to have not worked. So there's no way I could have afforded childcare.
But then you're constantly juggling. Well, I think there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
Because obviously, it doesn't matter really what age you are. At the end of the day, once you bring another person that's completely dependent on you into the world, you are responsible for them, and that changes the dynamics. So
just wondering if does that hinder your career more or less? Is that why the mums are getting older now? Because the norm now is older. I mean, I was called a geriatric mother, which FYI, the wording needs to change on that.
What is that? That's anything over 35.
37.
Oh, I thought it was 35.
37 is geriatric. But on the ward I was on, I was not the oldest by a long shot. And I think, I haven't looked at the stats, but they were saying that mums are getting older. And is that the reason? That they want to focus on their career more and they feel that it's easier to get back into the same career as opposed to pausing it. And then you've got a longer journey. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a really good question.
Yeah,
maybe we should invite some mums on and ask.
Oh my goodness, every Mother's Day we should do this and ask that question. How old were you? Do you feel like, what's your career? Because I know I was speaking to Geraldine at Raw, and she's very career driven. Mm-hmm. And it would be quite good to speak to her actually about her and what she did and her career. Or any women in the waste sector. Mm-hmm. There you go, there's an invite. Any women in the waste sector, what you think about that. But I guess we've been rabbiting on now for 40 minutes and someone's got to edit this. So we shall say goodbye for now. Hopefully you've got to know us too a little bit better and our journeys. And who knows, we might do another PermiServ one again another day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.